ॐ नमः शिवाय शान्ताय कारणत्रयहेतवे निवेदयामि चात्मानं गतिस्त्वं परमेश्वरः ॐ अघोरेभ्यो घोरघोरतरीभ्यः सर्वतः सर्वेभ्यो नमस्ते रुद्ररूपेभ्यः ॐ कालकालाय विद्महे कालतीताय धीमहि तन्नो काल प्रचोदयात् ॐ तन्नो कालभैरव प्रचोदयात् Oh, may that Kal Bhairava illumine my mind. May he who transcends time and yet who is embodied as time inspire me. Om, salutations to all the forms of Bhairava. I pray to the terrifying Bhairava. I pray to the gentle Bhairava. I pray to the Bhairava that is both terrifying and gentle at the same time. Salutations to the transcendent, the immanent, and the transcendent immanent Bhairavas. Om, salutations to all Bhairavas everywhere. Om. Salutations to Lord Shiva, who is the quiescent ground of all existence, who is the cause of the appearance of the three worlds, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. I take refuge at his lotus feet. Salutations to that great Lord. Om Yathagner Dahika Shakti Ram Krishne Stitahiya Sarva Vidya Swarupam Tam Saradam Pranamamyaham. Om Saradaye Devye Namaha Shri Jagadatri Mantra Dishatra Devataye Namaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Om Peace, peace, peace. Jai Ma. Good evening, friends. As you know, rather, the thing that's transmitted in the lineage, usually from a tantric point of view, is the mantra. So it's quite fitting that we have this discussion coming out of that long and extended exploration of the lineage, because the lineage, its essence is the mantra. In fact, there's that beautiful Kaula Sutra verse where it describes the guru, Evaiko Guruhu, there's only one guru, as being the unbroken transmission of power flowing throughout the lineage. The definition of guru is that. And the definition of God, remember the Kaula Sutra opens with these three definitions: Guru, God, and God's Shakti. In fact, you can think in the Shiva world, there are only really three principles resolved into one: Shiva, the transcendent; Nara, the immanent, or Nara is another word for Jiva, the individual; and Shakti, that which is between the transcendent and the immanent, which transforms the Jiva into Shiva, but which also enables Shiva to become a Jiva. This is actually a very deep point when you consider it. In any sentence, you have a subject, you have an object, and you have some verb. Not any sentence, but some sentences. So a lot of Shiva theology can be understood just by referring to the dynamics of literally the grammatical function of the verb or the sentence. So say, I see a pot, or I'm smoking pot. Whichever one you like. Now you'll see that there's an I and an I am. I like the I am smoking pot a bit more because there's I am. So there's this presence and also this sense of awareness. I am is existence consciousness, the subject, if you will. Then that I am is related to some idam. So I am, aham, I am, is related to some idam. In this case, a pot. And in what sense is it related to the idam? Through some verb, smoking. So I am smoking pot. The aham is related to the idam through some grammatical function that implies an action, you see. That action potential, both to contract and to expand, is called Shakti. And Shakti is inseparable from Shaktiman. As we learn in the Sarva Mangala Tantra, there is the holder of power, and then there is power. But I don't like to, some people think like holder of power in the sense of like controller of power. You sometimes get that idea. Vishnu has Yoga Maya. He is Narayana, the Lord, and he controls his Shakti. Not quite like that. I like to think holding has the connotation of like loving embrace. So you get the idea of Yamala or Sangata. There are two reconciled into one in that Sangata, that loving embrace that we were talking so much about earlier this week and also last week. So that Sangata, that loving embrace between Shiva and Shakti, implies oneness. So Shiva and his Shakti are inseparable, just like fire and its power to burn are inseparable. But that Shakti, importantly, is the power whereby Jayanti, Jaima, 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 Jaima. Are you okay, by the way? You guys who are in Northern California, like any tremors? Did you get any rain? Or is mother dancing too vigorously? Like, what's up?
I felt the earthquake, but there was no tsunami. But they scared us with giving some warnings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we were like, okay, we have to chant some Keelakas for you guys. And we're like, oh my God, our Northern California family, there's a tsunami or something. I was like,
Yeah.
they're tantrikas, it'll be fun for them.
Yeah, we were fine. Okay. Right.
Jama Jama. So we know that the Shakti, importantly, has this contracting function. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for this Mahamai, this projecting power, then Shiva could never become a Jiva. There would be no game. There would be no manifestation. There would be no limitation, no contraction. Without limitation, there cannot be art. That's one of the foundational ideas. In fact, if you want to make a painting, it's helpful to have a canvas. And what is a canvas but a designated space, a limitation? So those four walls, Asha will know, art teachers in the room, is like actually very productive of creativity. In fact, artists also understand the more limits you impose on something, the more creativity you can generate. Hence the role of the meter. So in poetry, you can get a lot out of the poem when you confine yourself to a meter. So we say iambic pentameter or tetrameter or Tantric Ji, who, by the way, did you see last week's puja, Friday evening puja? Anand Ji came to the house. Lo and behold, he was none other than Tantric with the 2Ks who's teaching the Sanskrit classes in our community. Like, just what? Like, can you just imagine this? And the funny story is that it's just on the street we met. I was walking out of a cafe with Chakreshwara. Chakreshwara was actually there at that time. I was walking out of the cafe with Chakreshwara and Vijaya, and then I ran into Anandji on the street, and he recognized us from the internet. He said, "I know you. I've been watching your videos. Like, thank you so much. Like, I'm so happy to meet you finally, and I want to support you." And we exchanged numbers. We were so excited. I told him to come to the house for a puja. And then some of you know I'm very bad at corresponding. Then unfortunately we didn't correspond for a little while because I didn't forgot to. And then later, something just came to me. I said, oh, I have to reach out to Anandji. Maybe a month or 2 months later after I had seen him, I have to reach out to Anandji. I just had this feeling. So I texted him, invited him to the puja. Before he came, he said, I have to make a confession. He said, I am tantric. 2Ks. Dum dum dum. Batman is Bruce Wayne. And so he came with his beautiful bansari, and I was very embarrassed because I was doing some loose translations of the Sanskrit mantras, and he's way more learned than I'll ever be in this incarnation. So he's sitting behind me, and I'm chanting mantras and like do it in my poor pronunciation, and I'm like trying to loosely translate the mantras, and I'm like, fuck. Tantric G is over there. He's probably like snickering at how childlike these translations are, because he's like an actual tantric scholar. Like he like really is so learned and so powerful. Anyway, where am I going with this? Yeah, old man moment. The Bansuri. Yeah, the Bansuri was tantric. Exactly. So if you watch the puja and you hear that lilting flute. Oh, limitation, limitation. Yes, I remember now. Thank you. So he was playing the flute. That was tantric. I mean, what a powerful manifestation of God. Sri Ramakrishna said, if you ever see anybody anywhere who's like gifted at musical instruments, like if you follow Claire on Instagram, every now and then she'll share a story of her playing acoustic guitar and singing some very pretty song or something like that. Like, whenever you see any manifestation of musicality, that's God's grace. Like, know that to be the manifestation of the Divine Mother Shakti. Like, Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes a lot. Wherever you see great power, great musicianship, great learning, all of that comes through the Mother's grace. As we learn in the Devi Sutkam, right? That it's by Mother's grace alone that a person becomes learned, that a person becomes powerful, that a person becomes beautiful, musically adept, all that stuff. So anyway, Tantric is the best example of that. So learned, such a great musician, so humble, so sweet. Anyway, he's now teaching the meters. So if you go into the Sanskrit part of the Discord, maybe I should just show you. He's doing something really, really special here. If you click into this, you'll see in the Sanskrit class, there's this idea of chandas. So if you click into chandas, oh, I think some people want the. If you click into chandas, here it is, the introduction to Sanskrit meter. And he gives the example of iambic pentameter here. Pentameter is like the 5 beats like that. So da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum. So like five stresses or something. And so using iambic pentameter, he then gives us a breakdown of a few different what do you call it, meters in Sanskrit. Sanskrit has a very, very, very advanced and sophisticated poetics. So the verses that we chant, usually they're an Anushtup, 16 beats per half line, so 32 beats all in all, which of course mirrors the phases of the moon, 15 days waxing moon, 15 days waning moon, like that. And what's really beautiful is the Vijnana Bhairava is composed in that Anushtum meter, just like the Bhagavad Gita and actually many, many hymns. So Tantriji is teaching us meter. So the point that I was making is that meter is very important in poetry. When you have a meter, then you can get way more creativity, arguably, out of your poem because you are voluntarily limiting yourself. Right. I'll just send these links to these people. Okay. All right. So you voluntarily limit yourself, and through that limitation comes some opportunity, some creative expression. That's exactly what Shakti does for Shiva in her limiting function. She limits Shiva so that the transpersonal, non-dual consciousness can experience itself to be a limited body and mind. So the only reason you feel yourself to be you is because you limit yourself to this body and mind and reject everything else that is also you, but apparently now appearing as the other. So that function whereby you become me and everything else that actually is you becomes them or the other, that function, that limiting function is called Kali or called Shakti. Kalayaha, Kalayan Sthitham. She who establishes limitation. So for Shiva, she plays a very important role. She takes the aham and she limits and contracts that aham into an idam, into a this. And so this body, this mind, I say is me. So my aham, through Shakti, has come into the idam, into the this, the immanent, embodied object of my experience. In fact, in Advaita Vedanta, the definition of ignorance is taking the object to be the subject. So the body and mind, they're objects. I'm experiencing them. And strangely, I say they are me. That which I'm experiencing can never be me, for I am the experiencer to which and in which these experiences come and go. But the trick of Mahamaya, or from Shankara's point of view, Maya, the delusion here is that I take the this to be the me. I superimpose aham onto the idam, but it's thanks to that verb smoking. Took a nice long pull from this pipe that mother handed me, and now I'm so high I don't even know who I am anymore. I think that I am the chair and the table, and I wonder about the world suffering, though I should be the inheritor of great joy. So that function of limiting is called Shakti. It's the verb. But the verb which limits also frees. So like we were discussing last week, the thing about limitation, the special thing about limitation is it is conducive to expansion. So whenever any organism, I mean, what to say of humans? Like when an atom arguably experiences limitation, it tries to break free. So the whole universe tends towards this freedom from structure, and like it tends towards entropy, you could say, in one sense. You could say maybe it's entropy is itself kind of coming down, but it's kind of hard to make this argument on behalf of atoms, but Vivekananda does. He says even atoms feel this desire for freedom. But I think you can better see it in like quote unquote sentient life, just to use that phrase loosely. The plant, it struggles against limitation. The moment it can't get sun, it then grows around its obstacle. So the obstacle is inducing some growth in the plant. Just like how the voluntary limitation of a canvas induces creativity, like the voluntary limitation of a rhythm or a meter in Indian poetics introduces or induces, I would say, the creativity of the poet. Just like that, limitation for the plant induces it to grow in special ways. And some botanists will actually use this to create really beautiful art like that, to guide the plant into growing in certain ways. So too with an animal. It's always bucking up against limitations and trying its best to overcome them. What to say of the human? Any limitation that a human senses in knowledge, we got plant kingdom, we got an animal kingdom. In Bhairavi Nikila Devi's screen, you'll always either get some plant kingdom representation or some animal kingdom representation. There, Singhavasini, the goddess who rides atop a lion. Singhavasini. There's a Singha, Chaima. Singha Devi, Narasinghi, Pratangira Devi, Chaima. So anything, a cat, a plant, a person, all of us respond to a challenge by wanting to overcome it. Sooner or later. Usually in the beginning we become despondent and defeatist, and many of us die, and then our life after life of just like dying and giving up, there'll come a life where we're just like, fuck this, I'm done running away. Now I'm going to turn around and face the brutes, as it were. So it's that limitation that brings out this inner metal, this inner fire in us, So the verb, the Shakti, which is the verb of God, contracts Shiva into Jiva. Then importantly, it expands the Jiva back into Shiva. That's the whole drama. Shiva becoming me, and me remembering I'm Shiva. This whole movement between the exhale and the inhale is what the Vijnana Bhairava is interested in. So notice three things. When I say aghorebhyo taghorebhyo, ghora ghora taribhyaha, it's just like saying para para apara. I'm pointing to the transcendent, which is aham, I am, pure consciousness. I'm pointing to the idam, which is the reflexive function of consciousness to appear to itself as itself, that idam, and the movement between the two, which the Vijnana Bhairava has mapped onto the breath. So para is the aham, apara is the idam, the visible world of both the senses and the intellect. And of course, the para is that which is a denizen of both worlds, flows between both. So the idea of Shuddha and Ashuddha Vikalpa. If this leans towards expansion, you call it Shuddha Vikalpa. If it leans towards contraction, it becomes Ashuddha Vikalpa. You can even say moralistically, if it leans towards expansion, we call it good. And if it leans towards contraction, we call it bad. Or you could even say, in terms of beauty, that which is beautiful leads towards expansion. That which is not beautiful leads towards contraction. But of course, the whole thing is in a meta way quite beautiful. So then good, bad, and then knowledge and ignorance. Avidya is that which leads us into more contraction, more body-mind identification. Vidya, knowledge, leads us into expansion. So avidya maya is one function of the verb towards contraction, and vidya maya is yet another function of the verb towards expansion. So Sri Ramakrishna can argue for this like two forms of maya, two faces of maya. Ghora, dakshina, terrifying and gentle, like that. So notice, there's something really beautiful about the verb. It can play two functions. It can go in two directions. And the noun and the object, so subject, verb, and then I think, is it a predicate? I don't want to start any kind of grammatical terms. I'll get into trouble there. I don't exactly know what it's called. Object, I guess. So subject, verb, object. These three things grammatically emphasize the three ideas in Shaivism. The idea of Shiva, para, Nara or Jiva, which is Apara, and Shakti, which is the link between Shiva and Nara. So Shiva, Nara, Shakti. Father, mother, and me. That's the idea in Shaivism. So notice the Kaula Sutra. So this is a very long digression just to explain that opening of the Kaula Sutra. So the Kaula Sutra opens with three verses that expound on these three principles. Notice, it's always the same theme, finding new expression. So these three principles are God, Shiva, Nara, the individual, who here in this case is actually the guru, interestingly enough. The guru, like we said in the previous lecture, the disciple. And most importantly, I could say the Shakti, with the link between the guru and God. So what is guru? What is God? What is God? What is guru? What is the power? And notice the way the Kaula Sutra presents these three, it starts with guru first. And notice when we do puja, we start with guru first. Isn't that interesting? You can see how these subtle ways these traditions map onto each other. So the Kaula Sutra says the guru is the most important thing in spiritual life. Without a guru, there can be no spiritual life. Arguably, without, I mean, that's not entirely true. I'm being emphatic. But without a driving instructor, you can't really drive. You can talk about driving, you can think about driving, you can even try to drive, but you'll probably get into trouble. I can't drive, and nor should I. I have no driving instructor. I should not get into a car and drive. But I can talk about it. I can watch TV about it. I can think about it. I conceptually understand what it's all about. I might even be able to give a lecture on it. Right? Like, oh, here's what you do. You push this and you push that. So many people can give fine lectures. They have a good conceptual understanding of spirituality, but they have no spirituality. In other words, they know about cars. They've watched other people drive cars. They conceptually understand it and they can give lectures on it. But they themselves have never driven, nor should they drive until and unless they have a human instructor to teach them. And nobody ever says, I learned to drive from the trees and from the wind and from the ocean. One day I just sat on the beach and then I just knew to drive. And now I fly around the world giving expensive $5,000 per ticket workshops on how to drive. Nature taught me, you guys. How magnanimous is nature? Like nobody, I mean, like, if you want to drive, which you should be, it's a big responsibility, you should learn under somebody. Similarly, like say somebody's giving you a heart surgery. And right before you go under anesthetics, you're like, wait, so where'd you learn to do this? It's like, oh, I watched a Savarpinandaji video on the internet. It's fine. Like, I got you. Right? It takes more than a few YouTube videos to make spirituality. So similarly, the guru is central for that reason. We need the guru to learn how to literally like do spirituality. Do it, not just think about it, to like do spirituality. So the Kaula Sutra privileges the guru, because Kaula Sutra is all about Guru Yoga and like Shaktipata, like that. There's traditions that are more inclined towards the Guru, other traditions that are more inclined towards God, like that. Yeah, Karthik ji, that's the funny thing. I learned it from nature because I'm special, but you have to come to the workshop. So that's the idea that there's guru first. But what is the guru? That's where it becomes very tricky. Because when we don't understand this, we get cults of personality and then weird power dynamics. But when we do understand it, it becomes so meaningful. What is the guru? The Kaula Sutra, verse 1 says, Guru, there's only one guru. And that's another interesting idea. Sri Ramakrishna said this again and again. Satchid Ananda alone is the guru. And he said it in a very unique way. He said, don't you think who am I to teach? Who is anyone to teach? He would say, don't you think the one who created the moon and the stars and the sun, the one who endowed parents with love to raise their children, don't you think that one should also take responsibility for your spiritual journey? Don't you think she alone will be the teacher when you desire it? And she is, you know. Your spiritual life begins actually with her taking you by the hand, or in some cases, grabbing you by the Shushumna Nadi. I was just talking to someone today about that, and taking you, guiding you, you know. So, you know, arguably your first experience is of Ma in one form or another. And she is the guru actually, because she takes your hand and she says, come, my child, let's go this way. And then you meet a bunch of her puppets, people of no particular interest at all, people who just appear, sock puppets through whom she conveys certain ideas at certain times in your life. Right? So, like all the human teachers are really just Ma's various sock puppets, like finger puppets. You know, the little monster with the two arms, he's like green and hairy, and you put him on your finger and you delight the kids with it. That's what all human teachers are, just like a little puppet on Ma's finger, like that. But she's the teacher, and there's only one. There's only one God, there's only one reality and one energy. So Sri Ramakrishna would say this time and time again, Satchidananda alone is the Guru. And from the Guru Gita, we learn this idea Brahmanandam, Paramasukadam, Kevalam Jnanamurtim, Dvandvatitam Gaganadadisham, Tattvamasyadi Laksham. So Guru is the bliss of Brahman, the giver of great joy. He is the non-dual, he, she, it is the non-dual absolute, the embodiment of wisdom. So the guru is a principle, it's a power, and there's only one. In all lineages, only one guru. And so it says, Evaiko Guru, the one guru is the stream, the marichi, the ray of Kramayata, this flow of this energy that is unbroken, avachinnam. It's an unbroken flow of energy throughout the overlay, throughout the lineage. And that flow of energy, that is what we call the guru. So what, like for today's lecture, this is the key point. What is the guru if not the mantra? Because the mantra, that bija, contains that energy, and that's what's transmitted. I should actually let you in on something. In our tradition, there's something very interesting that we do actually in our Ramakrishna tradition. We don't actually give the mantra that we ourselves are chanting. That's something. So my mantra is not actually the mantra that my guru chants. And my guru's mantra is not actually the mantra that my guru's guru chants. Isn't that interesting? This is a little like secret. I'm letting you on a bit of a secret with regards to like how Diksha works in the Ramakrishna lineage. Obviously, this video is not accessible except to a few, and not many people will find it here, but it's not something to share. So just like keep this to yourself. And the idea is this. You don't share your own mantra, but any guru in the tradition, in the Ramakrishna lineage, will usually be given a set of mantras. And there's like about 8 or so. It can be more. There's like 8. Anyway, I don't need to get into too much detail, but there's like a set of mantras, and then you offer from that set any mantra that's not your own mantra. But where did they come from? They all came from Sri Ramakrishna. So what happened was not from Sri Ramakrishna, from like Bhairavi Brahmani and the various streams that point him. What happened was he experimented with a bunch of different bijas, and then these mantras formed, as it were, and then he trained Holy Mother in those set of mantras. And there are few. Not just 8, there's probably many more besides that. And then, of course, the set of mantras that Holy Mother mastered, she then used those mantras to give the certain mantras to certain devotees for whom those mantras were most appropriate. So that's how the mantras kind of flow down. So it's not like there's like one specific mantra, which actually brings me to a very important point that I hope to make. It's a subtle point about mantra diksha. In some lineages, there is actually just one mantra that they give throughout the lineage, right? So they chant that one singular mantra, and then with that singular mantra, they give it to you. And then you chant that one singular mantra, and then you give that mantra down the lineage like that. So there are lineages like this where the mantra is like that, and lineages like this where the mantra is like that. And there are other traditions where the mantra might be quite public, but it doesn't really come alive until you receive it in Diksha. So I think Om Namah Shivaya is the best example of this. It's everywhere. It's in there in the Yajurveda, it's like all over the place. But until you get it in Diksha, it won't really matter. But now, if you, I mean, it does have some effect, but it's nothing compared to how it will be when you get it in Diksha. But when you get it in Diksha, you are not to reveal it to anybody. So your Diksha mantra, your initiation mantra might be Om Namah Shivaya, but you can't let anybody know about that. It's your secret mantra. But you might still be chanting Om Namah Shivaya, just nobody knows that that's your Diksha mantra, you see? So all of these together form a very unique tradition, a very complex mantra tradition. But whether it's and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for instance, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a public mantra. Anybody, anywhere can chant it, but you'll still receive it in Diksha. And there's actually another mantra that you can also get in Diksha, which I have no authority to say. But there's like that other mantra. I know it. It's a nice mantra. It's actually even available on the internet. There's this Diksha mantra, a Krishna Diksha mantra with a bija, tantric bija like that. So that's given in Diksha. So in some communities, you get two mantras. You get like this public mantra that you're supposed to chant, and then you also get a Diksha mantra, which you do private japa with. And in other traditions, it's just the Hare Krishna mantra, maybe. So in some traditions, there are mantras that you chant aloud. In some traditions, most traditions, the mantras you don't chant aloud, but they might still be public. It's just that, you're chanting them in your japa. And there are other mantras that are not at all public, that are totally private. And then you can chant it. But whatever it might be, I think there's something important that all of this points to. So the mantra that you get specifically is a mantra of that lineage. It might be your guru's mantra, the one that your guru himself or herself or themselves is chanting. It might not be, and it might be another mantra within the set of mantras that the guru is authorized to give. Or it might be a public mantra, whatever it might be. In that diksha, in that moment of diksha, what you're getting is not necessarily the mantra, but what you're getting is that which the mantra signifies or encapsulates or carries, if you will. And that is that quickening impulse that Swami Vivekananda talked about. So after having discussed all of that stuff about lineage, I think finally now it's nice to come down to the core of it, the heart of it, mantra. So what is your mantra? The mantra that you get in Diksha, that mantra is just the power of the lineage. But it comes in a particular formulation of sounds, and that formulation holds the power. So for instance, some of you might have noticed, right? But essentially, what you get in Diksha, when you formally step into a lineage, when you become part of a tradition, what you get, especially from a tantric point of view, is a mantra. Right? So it all comes down to this, the mantra. It's the most important thing in spiritual life. Just yesterday, a very beautiful exchange happened. We were all in the temple, Marge was giving a talk, we are all sitting, learning, and a person came. I'm so tempted all the time to keep hitting that pause recording button, because once you start talking about mantra, I feel like there's a sanctity to it that we want to preserve. But I won't take any names. There's just a person who came who doesn't visit all that often, but when he does visit, he's so full of devotion and sincerity. And so he just approached Maharaj at the end of the class, and he was kind of looking at Maharaj for a while, and Maharaj smiled at him. Maharaj, meaning my guru, smiled at him, and then he said, "So how are you?" And he just kind of stared for a little while, and he said, "It's just so nice to see you." You can see that he was having some kind of experience. His mind was elevated and he couldn't even really articulate a sentence. And then he said, "I want to have a deeper experience. I was told that I could have a deeper experience." And I think what he was implying was that he wanted to come and stay at the temple for a little while. And he said, "Swami Mahayoganandaji told me that I could email you about this and come and stay." And the first thing Maharaj said to him in response was, "Have you taken mantra?" In other words, have you been initiated? It's almost implying that until and unless you take that formal step into a lineage, until you get a mantra, until you're formally initiated, it's perhaps not possible to have a deeper experience. So he said, "Have you taken mantra?" And he said, "No, I haven't." And Marge's response was, "Do that first. Take mantra, practice a bit. And then once you have mantra and once you have some practice, then you can consider retreats." Right? So the kind of sequence of events in spiritual life is, if you want to go deeper, if you want a deeper experience, to use his literal phrase, then we'll first need to step onto the path, and we'll first need to get some practice under our belt, which means we need diksha and we need a mantra. So what is that mantra? Now, like I said, in the Kaula Sutra, the opening verse, the first line in the Kaula Sutra, the foundational idea in the Kaula Marga is this: the Guru is the power that flows like an unbroken ray of transmission throughout the lineage. What is that flows like the unbroken ray of transmission? Unbroken ray, it's the mantra. It doesn't have to be the literal mantra. It's just mantra, or a set of mantras that flow with that transmission. So the Guru is the mantra, actually. So it took me a long time to get to this point, but that's the first point. The Kala Sutra says the guru is a principle, not necessarily a person, and that which flows from the person is a quickening impulse, to use Swami Vivekananda's phrase, and that quickening impulse, as Swamiji articulates in the book Bhakti Yoga, comes in the form of a mantra, sacred word, sacred formula, that was God, was with God, and that is God. So that mantra and that which the mantra signifies, and time again we return to this point, is one and the same reality. Nama, Namni, Abhed. The name, Nama, and that Namni, that which the name signifies, are one. Nama, Namni, Abhed. That's what we get from the Guru. So you can even say the Guru is that. The Guru is the mantra. Then what is God? That's another claim that we have to clarify. So God in this tradition comes after the Guru. Guru first, then God. So what is God? God is the reality which one attains as a result of that transmission. So the transmission is power. Power comes in the form of mantra, and God is that which you gain through the mantra, which is in the mantra a potential, a seed form, as it were. But in a sense, seed is probably not the right translation. I think essence is a better translation, because seed, it implies something sometimes different from the outcome. The tree and the seed are sometimes different parts of a process. But if you can take temporality out of it, just imagine the seed coexisting with the tree. The oak is there in the seed, and the seed is there in the oak. If you can think along those lines, then we have a closer understanding of how the mantra is related to God. So the mantra, oh, Sarveshwari, Jama, 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 she's there. Jama. I don't like to say ember or spark either, because it is the whole hog, the whole fire. It's the heat of the fire, if you will. It's not a part. It's not a small minuscule. It's not. It's the whole thing condensed, if you will, which almost makes it more powerful. In a sense, the mantra is almost more powerful than God. And there are claims like this. For instance, the story of Hanuman and Rama crossing to Lanka. So Hanuman just jumped. He didn't need a bridge. Rama, God himself, needed a bridge. Do you know why? Because God's name is more powerful than God. It's an interesting idea, because God's power is the name. Hanuman has the name. So Hanuman has God's power. So he has something better than God, even God's name. And on the authority and strength of that name, he was able to jump over to Lanka. So Sri Ramakrishna once said, half jokingly, like, see, even Hanuman needed no bridge. He jumped across. But even Rama, God himself, he needed a bridge. And then all laugh, right? There's that bit in the gospel. The claim here is so important that the name, in a sense, is more powerful than God. It is God, but it's more powerful than God. The fire is one thing, the heat is another. The heat is what makes a fire a fire. Power is what makes God God, arguably. And the name is the essentialization of that power of God. So in that sense, you could say there's something called the Nam Avatar. Ramanuja talks about this a lot. The avatar means the incarnation of God. God takes many forms. Of course, God can be the Archana. Like you can see Sarveshwari Kali over there. That is God. According to Ramanuja, the Archana, the image, is God. Because through God's grace, God comes and possesses an image. God becomes available to us in the form of an image. That's God's grace. Without that image, we won't be able to access that transcendent reality. So the metaphor that Ramanuja gives is of the elephant kneeling down. So there's an elephant, and you're trying to get on the elephant's back, and it's just too big for you. God is just too vast for the mind to understand. But because God is also gracious and compassionate, God condescends to us. Right? So the elephant kneels. And when the elephant kneels, then we get on its back. So the elephant kneeling is called the avatara. Avatara, according to Ramanuja, is anytime God kneels. So the avatara comes in the form of Rama, Krishna, right? Jesus, Ramakrishna. There's one version of the avatar, a person with historicity, a great world teacher. Yada yada hi dharmasya. But the avatar also comes in the form of an archana, a murti, an image, like you see in a temple. But, and this is a unique idea in Ramanuja, the avatara also comes in the form of a mantra, a nama. In fact, Ramanuja might not even go so far as to say mantra. Nama is enough, just the name of God. Oh my God. I know people who took a mantra, which is just the name, before they even started chanting the mantra with bijas. And they pretty much got all the results that you would get from chanting bijas. The name alone is so powerful. The name given in Diksha is something that you just unimaginably is powerful. You can learn the name on the internet and it'd be powerful. But just getting the name from the lips of one in whom that name has blossomed, just through that, whoa, like I've seen with my own eyes, people who have just with that name achieved so much. So I think Ramanuja might just say, just name is enough. Never mind mantra. I mean, what to say of the mantra, but just name alone is God's grace to us. And yes, clergy is saying, well, thinking of the image possession in the context of the world, that everything is an image to us, but it lives because it literally is God possessing the world, and through that we can access Him. Yes, precisely. In fact, this is the opening sentiment in Yoga Raja's commentary of the um, Paramarthasara of Abhinavagupta. Yoga Raja calls God Jagan Murti. He is consciousness, Chid Ghana, Jagan Murtaye. He is consciousness, the mass of bliss, Chid Ghana, mass of consciousness, who is embodied as the world. So the whole world is a Murti possessed by spirit in order that we may have access to spirit. So from the non-dual point of view, we can only reflect upon ourselves when there is a world. For the world is God reflecting upon himself, as it were. But here, from the Ramanuja devotionalist school, the Murti is God's grace to us. Possessing the Murti is our way to access Him. And possessing the name, giving us names, is also something really special. To say the name is a way to access God, just like praying to an image or just like meeting someone like Ramakrishna, like that. So the mantra Shakti is God, and therefore the name is God. But in any case, God is the reality which one attains through the name. So when you receive a mantra, you're receiving, as it were, a promise. Sometimes that promise is fulfilled there and then as well. So once you get the mantra, you hear it in your left ear, you see the image of God, maybe you go straight into samadhi. Done. One and done. Some people have that kind of predisposition. Their karmas are so light that they just need to hear the name of God once. Sri Ramakrishna, what happened to him? He heard the name of God and he screamed, allegedly, he screamed so loudly, so ecstatically, that allegedly his guru also ran away. Like, I don't know exactly how true the story is, but Kenaram Bhattacharya, the person who gave him the mantra, I've heard many versions of it through the grapevine. One version is the guru was shocked. That's the milder version. The more dramatic version that I heard from one sadhu is that the guru got up and ran away. But all of the versions of the story point to one fact, that Sri Ramakrishna received the mantra with great thrill and exhilaration. Body is shaking, like maybe tears. And sometimes, you guys, it's so subtle that you barely even feel it. There are some cases where you hear the mantra, but nothing happens. Like, oh, cool. Or like, that was the mantra. I knew that one, or something. Something like sometimes people get. Oh my God, some people get mantra diksha. They don't even understand that they're getting mantra diksha, right? They get the mantra. They don't even get the fact that it was a mantra diksha. Other people, they just fall then and there. Like the other day in my middle school, one of the girls, she like pressed into her friend's neck like this, and the friend just fell to the floor, like boom. It's like, oh my God, like remind me not to get on your bad side or something. But it reminded me of how Diksha is for some people. You just hear the mantra, just fall right to the floor. Or you just start meditating right there. You can't do anything after that. You can't drive, you can't, maybe you just go into a state. Or you become really anxious. You start kind of like, you can have certain energetic events accompany the transmission of a mantra or not. But the mantra is pure power. And so Sri Ramakrishna, of course, he was so sensitive to this kind of thing that when he heard the mantra, he started screaming. The rest of us, though, when we hear the mantra, over time, we start to understand what we were given. In the beginning, we don't understand it. In the beginning, it's just like, oh, it's just a sound that someone spoke into my ear or something and gave me a mala and said, do this. Okay, whatever. And then we forget about the mala and we maybe even forget about the mantra. And then maybe 3 years later, we call that person up again and we're like, hey, bro, what was it again? Many of the times we don't know the treasure that we've been given. But when we chant it, and that's where I'm getting to next, then we access something, mantra shakti. And when we get mantra siddhi, the perfection of the mantra, then we understand what was given. So if it happens then and there, good. But if it doesn't happen then and there, it must happen. It will happen. No matter when, no matter what, it will happen. Maybe not then, but maybe tomorrow, maybe 3 years from now, maybe 3 lives from now. But once you get the mantra, all that's left to do is to wait for that seed to manifest as an oak, or wait for that essence to permeate the rest of our being. So the name permeating the heart and the center of the brain, or the name permeating like that. It's a beautiful idea that there's the deity, and that deity is given in the essence, installed as it were in the diksha, and then it just floods the body, the nadis, and everything becomes pervades the world like that. That might take time. I think there are some fragrances that are so smelly that the whole room stinks of it immediately. And other fragrances that are so subtle that it takes a while for the room to get the smell, right? Just like that. For some people, the room smells like it right away. And yet others, we have to wait for the pervasion to occur. But that's what we get. We get a mantra, which is the unbroken stream of transmission that flows through the lineage. And that is the guru. The guru is the one who gives the mantra. We call this a sadguru, meaning we call this a diksha guru, initiation guru. There are, of course, other types of gurus. Shiksha guru, Vaishnava tradition has this guru, like Shiksha guru means one who teaches you. Outside of the context of Diksha, maybe you took Diksha, now you're coming and learning some new stuff. Shiksha guru. We might also call it Upaguru. Upaguru means it didn't give you Diksha, but is teaching you other things or helping you deepen your Diksha like that by giving you tools and whatnot. So there's Upaguru, there's Shiksha guru, there's Diksha guru, there are many different kinds of gurus. But it's essentially in the Tantric tradition, the guru is the one who gives the mantra. And importantly, the mantra acts as the guru. So in some cases, the guru gives the mantra and then fucks off. Like we saw in that Komalakanta movie, the guru sat with Komalakanta as a young boy, whispered the mantra into his left ear, and was never seen again. Just as Bhairava, Bhairava came with the Trishul, with his jata and everything, and he came and he saw Komalakanta just walking in the field, young boy, 8 years old, 9 years old, I think 9 or 10, singing songs to Kali, and he felt, oh my God, this is a fit candidate. Sometimes you have to approach the guru, but sometimes if you're really sincere, the guru will just approach you. And the guru will be like, this person, Ma forces that person to go and give you a mantra because Ma wants to reach you so badly, electricity will just flow through the nearest available wire. So if a guru comes to a place, anybody who is fit to transmit this, who has authority to do it, if they come into a place where they see someone who is a fit receptacle, they get inspired. And they can't wait to transmit. So in this case, this guru went and whispered in Komalakanta's ear. Komalakanta went into samadhi, and this guru just left. I never saw him again for like the next, I don't know, 30 or something years. Then he appeared again in a dream. That same guru apparently came to Komalakanta in a dream or before he fell asleep, and he said, now, my son, you need a Panchamundi asana. Go and make this asana and sit on it and do your mantra. So he got maybe one more instruction from his guru years later. But all really he needed was that one mantra. But he had many upagurus, people that taught him how to do Kali Puja, all that stuff. But he only really had one Diksha guru who gave him that one mantra, I think. Who knows really the facts of his story, but this is the legend. And he never saw, so Diksha Guru might not stick around. Diksha Guru might just give you the instruction and leave. And Diksha Guru might have junior guru, senior guru, like that. So we have our guru, but our guru might have a disciple who acts as our guru also. So like Matra Prana, for instance, my guru has a disciple who is my senior, and then she might be my guru at times. Like the idea of junior guru Maharaj, senior guru Maharaj also is an interesting idea. That within a lineage, we have our guru bhais, guru bhaginis, and some are dada, right? Didi, some are older sisters, older brothers, like that. And so that same learning happens within the lineage. And so sometimes you have a Diksha Guru who is also Upaguru, Shiksha Guru, like that. So gurus play many functions, but essentially though, the essential function is the transmitting of the mantra, and that mantra can be considered Guru, and God is that reality which you access through the mantra, which is in seed form as the mantra, right? And then of course, I don't want to take up the third verse because that will take us into a next 2-hour discussion of Vimarsha Shakti, because Shakti is defined as, here I am taking up the third verse, the power of spontaneous eye sense, which is a very non-dual kind of krama kaula thing to say. But anyway, I'll just leave that for now. So mantra, that's what we get in Diksha. So having had that beautiful, I hope, if I may say so myself, discussion about lineage, having looked at Shanideva's document and tracking all that lineage, we come to this idea that that which is transmitted is the mantra. So here you are, you probably have a mantra. Most of you who are in this room have either received a mantra or who are soon to receive a mantra. So I strongly encourage you to look into Diksha, those of you who are interested in, doing this practice. And spiritual life, you could argue, has two phases. Before mantra and after the mantra. Before mantra, it's like very syncretic. You'll just do whatever, it's there on the internet, you do this, you do that, like that. It's fine. That's good. That's very important. But then after mantra, you have a fixed path, a fixed lineage, and a person who actually watches over you and ensures that you're doing that to some extent at least. And then it becomes very serious. So before mantra, it's like we're doing genuine spirituality, we're making genuine spiritual progress. But the tantric argument is that after diksha, after mantra, that's when we really hone in and we really practice. So, if you're interested in that, there's probably like a Vedanta society near you and you can go and inquire. It's not advertised, because mantra diksha that is advertised would be a very cheap thing, and there's no money involved, because there's like the tradition of dakshina, but you can like give a single dollar if you want. It's just like a formality. But the idea is that mantra is free in a sense. Of course, you're paying with your commitment and your sincerity. And you might give a little donation as part of the tradition, but it's free and it's not advertised, at least in the Vedanta society. So you have to hear about it. You have to somehow be turned on to it. So if you're interested in it, there's probably a Vedanta society near you, and you can go and inquire about mantra diksha. They'll give you a mantra, something like that, or just use your intuition. You might get the sense of like, oh, maybe I should approach this person. The worst thing they can do is say no. Right? But once you are serious about spiritual life, you also become serious about looking for a mantra. And of course, we have had so many discussions in our community, and many of them are recorded and available, about like choosing a guru carefully and what qualifications the student must have. So make sure the guru is qualified, make sure the student is qualified, make sure we really understand what mantra is and what discipleship is, and then we step into a tradition like that. So, having discussed all of that, today I'm focusing on verse 95 of the Vijnana Bhairava, and I want to talk about what it is actually to chant a mantra. So, say we got a mantra, right? Maybe you haven't gotten one yet. Hopefully, you will soon. Or just choose one now. Like you pick up a mantra from some mantra that inspires you. Maybe there's some past life karma there. You're related to that mantra in some way, and it's there in your energy field, so you're resonating with it. Okay, so you have a mantra. The question I want to ask in today's class is, in what way does the mantra connect to the deity? So how is it that by chanting a singular formula, a sound, how is it that that will lead me to the realization of God? What's the link between God and the mantra? Because we just hear Nama, Namni, Abhed, God is the mantra, like that, but these are frothy words. What does it actually really mean? So we'll come here to the Vijnana Bhairava for a moment. Let me just pull it up for us. And you'll see that there is, oh my God, where are you? Oh, there is this implication. I'm just going to scroll really quickly. I hope you don't mind. There's this implication here of contemplating Kali, an implication that we should inquire into the meaning of Kali. So here it is. Maya Vimohini Nama. Verily is she called the deluder, Maya. Kalayaha kalanam sthitam. She functions, kalayaha, to establish sthitam, kalanam, limitations. Ityadi dharmam tatvanam, sorry, kalayana prathag bhaved. Maya is indeed Vimohini, the goddess illusion who functions to establish limitation. Just like this, contemplate the nature of all reality and all the tattvas, and as a result, one who does this will become without separation. Kalayana prathag bhaved, or without limitation. So one will become, I guess I think this would probably be a better translation, actually. So, yes, by contemplating Kali, who is of the form limitation, one becomes free of all limitation. So, I just want to take one more pass at it. I know we've been on this verse for weeks and weeks and weeks now, but I hope you can see why. It's a really rich verse, right? There's a lot going on here. And we approached it a few different ways. Last time we talked about it, we talked about honoring struggles. If Kali is indeed limitation, then we should look at every limitation in our life and rejoice. They are angels unawares, as Swamiji once said. Any limitation in your life is a call to deeper growth and learning. So there's a way to make a gratitude practice out of this. So that was around Thanksgiving time. I thought it'd be nice to contemplate Kali as all the bad stuff in life, all that we're averse to, all that we're struggling with, and to see in that some great transformation. Just today, that was what last time was about. Like looking at all the horrible stuff and doing the worship of the terrible. And in a personal way, looking at all the struggle in our sadhana, not as obstacles, but as opportunities. It's one way to do the contemplative practice. Another way, the first time, I think the first pass we took at this verse was just to contemplate Kali in the sense of Maya, and to take a kind of philosophical approach and to refine our understanding and our intellect. That's properly speaking Shaktopaya. We hear teaching, Shravana, we contemplate the teaching, Manana, and then we meditate upon the teaching, Nidhyasana, we integrate the teaching. So we did a kind of Shaktopaya thing. Then we also did the idea of contemplating Kali through puja. So that was properly around Kali Puja time, Shyama Kali Puja time. And then I was making a case, worship Kali. I think that lecture is called Why We Should Worship Kali. And so by worship, I meant do puja. Like do puja, pray, try to connect to the living essence of Kali. And then we did the philosophy thing and we did the gratitude thing. Now I want to do a mantra thing. So one way to contemplate something is to just repeat the mantra for that thing. So mantra as a contemplative exercise is what I'm angling for in this lecture. And the reason that I think this is a valid interpretation of contemplation is because this is what Patanjali offers us in his Yoga Sutra. He says, Tad japam, tad artha bhavanam. Artha means meaning. Bhavanam means something like meditate upon, but it can also mean like think about or contemplate or reflect upon. And what is japam? The repetition of a mantra. So according to Patanjali, the definition of repeating a mantra, japa, is not just mechanically saying the words. I mean, that's good too. That will have some effect. But it's doing that and while doing that, reflecting upon the meaning of that mantra. So it's a kind of philosophical inquiry. It's a contemplative practice. So let's say you received a mantra. Now we understand the mantra is the essence of the tradition. It's the transmission of power flowing unbroken throughout the lineage. What do you do with it? You chant it. You chant it ad nauseum. You repeat it again and again and again and again until it flows like an uninterrupted stream of bliss within you. So the mind must flow towards God steadily in this unwavering way. And the way to do that is to keep the mantra flowing, keep the mantra going at all times. In the beginning, we break up our practice into chunks. We say, I'll meditate in the morning, I'll meditate in the evening. But what does that meditation really look like? The bulk of it is really just sitting down and sincerely and faithfully trying to stay with the mantra. Just repeating that mantra over and over on our rosary, just feeling into the mantra and saying it and saying it and saying it. So we do it in the morning, we do it in the evening. Maybe we do 30 minutes in the morning, we do 30 minutes in the evening. Let's say in the morning, we get to 10 malas. In the evening, we get to 10 malas. So we've done 20 malas in the day. So we've chanted something like, let's say one mala is 100 repetitions, 108, but let's say 100 repetitions. We've chanted something like 2,000 repetitions of the mantra that day. So good, 2,000, it's considerable. We did 20 malas in a day. Very nice. Then maybe we add a third session. So we meditate in the morning, meditate in the evening, but now we're also meditating in the afternoon. So then we add another 10 malas there, perhaps. So 30 minutes thrice a day. Then we have something really special. 3,000 repetitions of the mantra. Really profound. Then we become interested in things like Purashcharana. So we want to challenge ourselves. So we say, okay, I will chant a set number of mantras every day for a set number of days. We challenge ourselves. We say, I'll do 100 malas every day for 10 days. So I'll be able to chant 100,000 malas. Big commitment. So we might go on a retreat. We might take time out of work and go into nature or go and stay at a Vedanta society or something and just like do that. And then we get to the end of it and we might do a big homa or something. There's Purashcharana. Or we become interested in these like arithmetic, geometric style Purashcharnas. So an arithmetic style progression would look like this. You start with 10 malas on the new moon, maybe whatever you want. Start with maybe 50 malas, whatever you want. I would recommend start small. Start with maybe one mala on the new moon. And then on the next day, you make it 2 malas. And then on the third day, you make it 3 malas. And the fourth day, 4 malas. Fifth day, 5 malas, like that. So you slowly increase one at a time. When you get to the full moon, that would be 15 days from when you started. You'll be at, I think, 16 malas, probably. And then you go down. So you go up to the full moon, 16 malas, like I'm doing a Purashcharana now, for instance. And today is the 5th day of the moon. So I'm 5 malas more than when I started. And when I get to the full moon, I will be about 15, if not 16 malas from when I started. Then we come down. Then we go from the full moon down. Slowly as the moon wanes, we also bring the mantra down. So you might do that. Then hardcore people, this is not recommended because it's quite an ask. You can do geometric progressions also. Start with 1, the next day it's 2, the next day it's 4, the next day it's 8, then it's 16, then it's 32, then it's 64, right? Like that. So there's another way to do Purashcharnas where you increase geometrically, which is so intense. I never do this style because it gets too intense too quick. I'm like, oh my God, there's too many malas that I can do in one day. Maybe I should try one day with a smaller count, but that's another way. And sadhus do that a lot because I mean, you have the whole day. What are you going to do? So you might as well. So there are these different techniques, for increasing the number of repetitions that you do. Then when you get to a place where you're chanting the mala a lot, doing a lot of repetitions, suddenly there comes this sweetness. It's just exponentially. There's this joy that comes from the mantra. So you might start to slow down. In the beginning, maybe just to meet your quotas, just to get the numbers in, you're chanting quickly. But then suddenly, the mantra just becomes alive. You take your time and you chant it slowly, and each bija just sings to you, and then you feel this great bliss. And then you don't need these Purashcharnas or anything. They're helpful in the beginning. Then you just want to chant your mantra at every given opportunity. So you have your fixed times, which you're probably keeping. But then outside of those times, you're also chanting while you're in the car, while you're at the bus stop, while you're walking around. Even if you don't actually have a mala in hand, everyone should always have a mala in the pocket, of course, or a mala like available. But when you don't have a mala in hand, you find that you are just kind of absent-mindedly, hopefully not absent-mindedly, but abstractedly, inwardly playing with the mantra as you just touch your fingertips. Or even if you're not, you're working with your hands, inwardly still, you just can't get away from it. It's gotten to the point where the mantra almost chants itself. And then we have it, this uninterrupted stream of mantra. That's the goal. The goal is to chant the mantra in the beginning, at least, so many times with so much sincerity and devotion that it becomes like the backdrop sound, the background sound. Like that's just the theme song that's playing in your head all the time. So, how does this work to connect us to God? Well, the first thing I'll point out here is that, God aside, just take the mantra in its simplest, most secular way. It purifies the subconscious because the mantra is the only thought, like all other thoughts can't claim this. The mantra is the only thought where the previous thought and the next thought resemble it, if not are exactly it. So when I say a mantra, let's say my mantra is, just say Om Namah Shivaya. So I say Om Namah Shivaya. Then I say it again, Om Namah Shivaya. Then I say it a third time, Om Namah Shivaya. You see, the first mantra, second mantra, and the third mantra are all the same thought. Same word, same image, same thought, you see. But other thoughts are not like that. Like we were saying at one lecture, if I say SpongeBob, I suddenly think of Bikini Bottom, and then I think of rock bottom, and I think of how my financial situation is at rock bottom. Like, you know what I mean? Like you go from one thing to another. I think about how my music career is at rock bottom, or like, and then a music career. Then I think, oh well, that one band that I think, oh my god, that person who I was dating in that band. Oh my god, I'm so sad that relationship ended. Oh, maybe I should reach out to them again. And then I'm on my phone. Like you know what I mean? Like sometimes you take one thought and it leads you down this train. These are totally fictional examples, by the way, I think. But they like lead you down a train and then it leads you to some action and suddenly no more meditation, or like thoughts are like that. They breed innumerable other thoughts, which in turn breed innumerable other thoughts. And that's what we call the hang-ups of samsara. Like our mind, samsara is nothing but this vikshepa shakti, this power of pluralization, if you will. Vikshepa literally means projection, but it really just means diversification. When one thought becomes 10 thoughts, become 100 thoughts, become 1,000 thoughts, that's called vikshepa. Just like rakta bija in the chandi, the more I slash it, the more of it there is. And then that vikshepa, according to Vidyaranya Swami, acts as avarana. It blocks my reality. It prevents me from recognizing who I really am. So vikshepa, projection, obscures, it veils. So how do you counteract vikshepa? By thinking one thought consistently over and over and over again. So the hangups that I have come from this vikshepa. Whatever subconscious stuff that I'm dealing with. I get angry sometimes, I get moody sometimes, I feel grief sometimes, I feel fear sometimes, I feel anxiety, whatever it might be. That's all there in the subconscious. It's there from this life, of course, all the things that happened to us while we were growing up, but it's also brought over from previous lives. So the subconscious, to use that Jungian or Freudian phrase, like a repository for all these samskaras. Now, the way the mantra works is it's a new samskara that blocks the old samskaras. So I almost think it's like the serotonin uptake inhibitor, do you know? So when the brain like uptakes the serotonin, then you feel like depressed or whatever. So you take this medication and then it goes and the medication goes and binds at the site of the neurotransmitter like that. So once it binds there, then the serotonin can't bind there. Have you seen those really bad graphics that the science teachers put on the projector? It's like really bad animation. And Jayanti can do a 10 times better one in 10 seconds. Like just bad art, and the colors, for whatever reason, they choose really stupid, awful colors, like muted, weird, somewhat shiny colors. Anyway, so then the you see this like slow moving thing, and there's like an arrow, and yeah, exactly. Pluk, and it binds there. And when it binds the neurotransmitter, other things can't bind there. That's exactly how the mantra works. You say the mantra, and because the law of the mind is that I can only really think one thought at any one time. So multitasking is just moving attention between many different things successively. You can never really multitask. The mind only thinks about one thing at one time. So if you put the mantra there, in that singular moment, nothing else is there. Just for that moment. And then if you put that mantra there again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again, you'll see there's no gap for any other thought to get in. And what happens if I don't lift my arm? It atrophies. If I just like leave my arm, you'll see. I've seen some sadhus where they just like stand forever. For their whole life, they stand years, 10, 20 years, they're standing. Sometimes 80 years, they're just standing with maybe the arm is raised or something. It becomes so skinny. And the rest of them seem quite big. Except when they're standing. I've seen one sadhu, his leg was really bloated. It's like super big. So the water deposit, something happened, it bloated and became swollen. But I saw the sadhu with his hand raised for a long time. You'll see a lot in India, Varanasi like that. Yeah, something like that. It became very swollen. But then his hand was like a wisp. just like a skeleton arm, because he hasn't lowered his hand in like 30, 40 years or something. It's crazy, but they do that. Sometimes they hold something also, or they have something to tie their hand, but they don't let their hand come down. And so it atrophies, all the muscles just melt away. If you've seen it, it's very dramatic actually, to see how like a whole arm through lack of use just atrophies. And people who go to the gym know this also. If they don't work out, the muscles that they built in the gym, they slough off. And that's the way it is with my French. I can barely speak it. J'oublie comment parle français. Pourquoi? Parce qu'il n'y a pas personne avec qui je peux parler. Je peux les parler. See, I'm so hard now to speak French because Claire's the only one who will slowly take the time to speak to me like a 5-year-old. When she comes, I'll try to speak to her in French and like make an absolute fool of myself. She's from French-speaking Canada. But like, if you don't speak French often, then even if you learned French, you'll just forget how to speak it. Right? Why? Because it atrophies. So when you learn something, you don't rehearse it, it melts away. If you have some muscle and you don't use it, it melts away. Use it or lose it. So what happens with the mind? Use it or lose it. If you have the mantra, you lose the mind. It just atrophies. All the other thoughts, the energy of all these hang-ups, these anxieties, these despondencies, they wither away. The energy just flows out of them. And then lust, greed, anger, these deep biological impulses, they won't have any sway over you anymore because you've diverted your energy from them. Just you with the mantra. So from just a purely secular point of view, say the mantra has no value beyond that, that's still really valuable. Just to repeat something consistently over and over and over and over again, the whole mind just disappears. When the mind is gone, what remains is God, arguably. Ah, yes, beautiful. Thank you, Bhairavi, for recommending that. So we have this idea, mantra as a way to counteract mind. Say mind. What is mind? Mind is Maya. And what is Maya? Vikshepa and Avarana. Projection and veiling. Because the mind pluralizes and diversifies, I get lost and overwhelmed and obscured. So to shut down the mind, yoga chitta vritti nirodha, after all, yoga is the complete cessation of the mind. To shut down the mind, I have the mantra. So that's all you have to do. Just say the mantra incessantly. Okay, it's a big ask actually, but we gradually work towards it and then it works wonders. Now, the more you chant your mantra, it's like purifying. Before you even get to the point of Amani Bhava, no mind, way before that, you'll start to feel lighter, more joyful, more cheerful, and you'll feel all your previous hangups don't affect you with the same power. So you might be like a very depressive person, let's say. So you have this hang up where every now and then you just become really depressed. You don't know why. Or maybe you have some triggers that cause you to feel that way. Okay, good. Notice where you are with that now. That emotion comes, and actually when it comes, you're powerless against it. You just have to like live it, right? Which is also wonderful. It's Ma Kali playing it that way. So you feel your anger, you feel your grief, you feel your loss, whatever it might be. Then chant your mantra, receive a mantra and diksha, and then chant it sincerely and with faith. And after a few months, if not a few days, I would say maybe like in some cases a few years, you check in again with that same thing. Maybe it comes back, that depression comes back, but you'll notice it's nowhere near what it used to be. It's lighter, it comes and it goes more quickly. It barely touches you after a while. It's still there, maybe, but it barely touches you. Why? Because the mind is being purified through the mantra. So the more mantra we do, the more powerless our hang-ups become because of this mechanism. Because our hang-ups, whatever our samskaric predicament might be, they gain their power through our investing in them. In other words, through our focusing on them, thinking about them. So this is a kind of yogic technique. It's called pratipaksha bhavanam, replacing the old with the new. The old will just wither away. And what is the new? The mantra. So we repeat the mantra incessantly and it purifies the mind. And then you'll notice your dreams will have a spiritual quality. You'll start to see gods and goddesses in your dream because your chitta is purified. It will project now in dreams more pure images and everything changes. The body radiates a kind of joy. This is called mantra shakti or mantra siddhi. Perfecting a mantra really just means chanting it incessantly. Okay. So that's the idea that there's tad artha, tad tad japam, tad artha bhavanam. But so far we haven't really talked about tad artha bhavanam. We've talked about japam, just repetition. Japa, by the way, literally means saying mantras under your breath. It's a Vedic term to mean whispered mantras. So in the Vedas, you chant most of the mantras aloud, but japa means to kind of like off to the side do mantras for yourself quietly. It's a Vedic term that gets carried into this tantric tradition, and now it just means chanting a mantra repetitively. One mantra chanted over and over and over, or many different mantras, you chant them over and over and over. Usually quietly though, so mantra should not be said aloud. Usually when you're doing a japa mantra, you chant it in your heart, internally, quietly. Or at least you make sure you're all alone, because some secrecy and sacredness. Secrecy has a tendency to generate sacredness, and sacredness has a tendency to cultivate reverence, which means secret. You don't share your bedroom details with just everybody. It's between you and your spouse or your partner, like that. So now we come to the final thing I want to say, the contemplation. What does it mean to tad artha bhavanam? Thus far, the only claim is that if you just do it a lot, it will work. So this is like mechanical japa, just mechanically chant your mantra, it should work. Except this problem. If you mechanically chant your mantra, if you just say the thing, it becomes automatic, then the mind is free to get into its usual shenanigans again. Right? It'll start thinking all the old thoughts, and then the effect that we just described doesn't come to pass because the mind is not fully engaged in chanting the mantra. So to chant the mantra meaningfully involves some second thing, some extra thing, and this is called contemplating the meaning of the mantra. Tad japam, tad artha bhavanam. Meditate upon, reflect upon, contemplate the artha, the meaning of the mantra. Now, in most cases, your mantra will be attributed to a deity, some form of God. There's only one God, but that God appearing in the form of Kali will have a certain mantra, or that God appearing in the form of Ramakrishna will have a certain mantra, like that. So that mantra is attributed to, nay, is synonymous with a certain aspect of divinity. So this is the really mind-blowing thing. What it means to inquire is to use the buddhi. Buddhi means intellect, but intellect is not confined to just analytical philosophical inquiry. It includes also conscience, like knowing what's right and what's wrong, that inner sense of the right thing to do, and it includes also imagination. So what it really means, arguably, to chant a mantra is just to visualize the deity to whom that mantra is ascribed. It's really a simple idea, but a beautiful idea, that contemplation doesn't have to be this, like, ungainly philosophical exercise of trying to suss out this meaning or that meaning. Sometimes it's as simple as just being with the image to which the name is attributed. So the mantra has two parts: nama, which is the sound, which you get into your left ear, and rupa, which you get in the dhyana mantra, or which you can see in the picture. So your rupa, the contemplation of the rupa, just visualizing the deity in your heart, that itself can be considered tad artha bhavanam. So it maybe doesn't go anywhere beyond that. It's enough to simply chant your mantra, and while chanting your mantra, trying to recreate in your mind's eye to the best of your ability the image of that deity, and just stay with that image as you chant the mantra. So you're doing two things: staying with the sound and also staying with the image. Notice the mind is nothing but nama rupa. The mind, mentalese, the language which it speaks, is just words and images. So your mantra, if it has word but no image, fucked. Because then the mind will generate all sorts of nonsense images. And if it has image but no words, also fucked. Because then it will generate all sorts of words. But if your mantra has both a form and a name, then you're safe. Then you're really binding into that serotonin neurotransmitter thing, so then it will inhibit the uptake of any other thought. So a mind full of images is purified of its image by one image, one ring to rule them all. One image of Kali purifies you of all other images. And then the mind full of words is purified with one word, your mantra. So the mantra plus the image together is what it means to do japa. That's one way to think about it. And oh my God, Jayanti, did you see that? We're like, so crazy. The new Zoom feature, whatever it is, it's just like dum dum dum. It's like Spanish soap opera or something. There's like all sorts of things. So yeah, that's the first idea to take from today's class. Verse 95 could just be that, because it's telling us to contemplate Kali, right? So one way to contemplate Kali, as Patanjali implies, is to get her mantra in the context of Diksha and repeat that mantra lovingly and sincerely while visualizing her form. But now the next step, there's another kind of meditation. So the meditation that I just described, this japa practice, it's called rupa dhyana, meditation on the form of the deity. Rupa means form, dhyana means meditation. So rupa dhyana, while you chant the mantra, visualizing the deity's form, is one way to do this practice. But there's another way. The next way is called lila dhyana. Lila dhyana means meditating on the dynamic aspect of that deity, which means contemplating or remembering that deity's leelas, stories. So what does Kali do? She kills demons. In your mind's eye, you can recreate scenes in which she's killing demons. Or what does she do? She dances on the cremation ground. In your mind's eye, you can see her dancing. or drinking blood or whatever it is you like to see her do. You can see her do that. Now that's why the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is such an important document, because those of you meditating on Sri Ramakrishna, the book is essentially a Leela Dhyana manual. So every time you read a section, you can close your eyes and meditate on what you just saw in that section. So you can see him dancing with Rakal and Narendranath. You can enter into that bhav. It's called what is it? Ramakrishna Loka, the world of Ramakrishna, just by seeing him and his divine celestial companions like that. And you that's why you read the Bhagavatam, you can be with Krishna, etc. Prahlada, like that. So the meditation doesn't just have to be the form, it could also be stories related to the form. You can think of Jesus walking up the steps to the temple, and you can visualize all these things that you read about in the stories. So that too is Tarartha Bhavanam, contemplating that deity stories and that deity's leelas, various pastimes like that. And the final thing, last thing in this idea is Tattva Dhyanam, meditating on the reality of that deity, which you can say is a non-dual meditation, but you can also say is this is the properly speaking Shaktopaya philosophical exercise. While you chant Mother Kali's name and you see her form, or whatever deity, Krishna or whatever, while you see the form, you start to analyze intellectually what everything in that image means. So this is the properly speaking Shaktopaya thing. You say, okay, what's the sword mean? You zoom into the sword, you just see the sword. And then that takes you to the contemplation of Viveka, maybe. Or the sword is full of blood. So you start to contemplate Ma's terrible aspect. All around, there's all sorts of violence. You can make no sense of it. And then you contemplate that. And you see the severed head. Oh, it's the ego. And then you contemplate, oh my God, the sword is coming from my neck. That's my head. But look, he's smiling. Why? What is the joy that comes from the decapitation of the ego? And then you contemplate that. And then you see like this. So that's why that lecture series that we did on all the aspects of Ma's form, it's a guided meditation almost, because you can meditate on each and every one of these things. And that also might bring to your mind a lila. So when you see Ma's tongue, you can meditate on rajas, energy, directed by sattva. Philosophically, you can do that. But you can also remember Rakta Bija, and you can think, oh, she's drinking the blood of Rakta Bija, and then you can meditate on that lila. So by meditating on the rupa, it can give you access to lila, but it can also give you access to these philosophical insights. So what does it mean to contemplate Kali? We could say it just means this. Contemplating Kali is inquiring into the meaning of her form. The form is a philosophical contemplation tool. What's the sword mean? What's the garland mean? What's the this and that mean? Like that. So I think that's another way to interpret verse 95. So how do you do Vijnana Bhairava Tantra verse 95? In all these ways. And this is a very rich verse. So very quickly on Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa Samadhi, the Savikalpa Samadhi that comes from this is as follows. Right now I'm experiencing the world. The world is nothing but a mental projection that has become particularly reified. So through practice, through repetition, the world has become a reality for me. It's through mantra that the world exists. This is in the Shiva Sutra. The world, mind is nothing but mantra. And so through the mind's mantric power, I project a world. So with my new mantra, which the Guru gives, I'm going to now project a new world. Maybe project is not the right word here. Maybe access is the right word. So with this mantra, the mantra that I have now in my worldly state, I experience this world. This is one order of reality. But it's not the only reality. In fact, this is an infinitesimal portion of a much richer reality. Many of you know this, like say on psychedelics, some of you are very spiritually sensitive. You realize there's more here than what meets the eye. There's more to your philosophy. There's more to heaven and earth than is spoken of in your philosophy, Horatio. So what is all of that? I can't see it. I have no access to it until I start doing some spiritual practice. Then I start to see all sorts of things that were always there, but I didn't really notice before. So what happens is, when you start chanting Mother Kali's mantra, when you start visualizing her image, soon it will appear like the image gains a kind of consistency and reality. Right now, if you try to think of an image of her image, it's perhaps nondescript. You can't really see it. But then when you open your eyes, you see the image on the picture, and then there it is. Now, if there comes a day where when you close your eyes, it will feel like you're looking at her with your eyes open, something very special will happen. This comes through daily practice and concentration. So every day we chip away at it. We try to see Mother in our mind's eye. And then one day through this practice, we just see her. In other words, it's like eyes open looking at a photo, but your eyes are closed and you're looking into your heart. But you can see every detail all at once. Usually how it works with us is we see maybe just the feet, right? Just the head, or just the sword, or just some kind of amorphous idea. It's hard to actually, in your mind, fully visualize the form consistently. Once you see that form, though, then something happens that once that form crystallizes, the next thing that happens is it becomes enlivened. Just like a murti becomes possessed by the image of mom, similarly, the presence of mom. Similarly, the murti that you build with your chitta, the mind stuff, becomes possessed with ma also. That murti comes alive. And then it gains a reality just like, if not more deeper than this reality. That's the thing. You practice, practice, practice. We all are going to suck at visualizing. We don't even underestimate the amount of practice that is needed here, gang. Like, you are doing something so difficult, actually. But it's easy through love. Because we love to do it, we're just going to come and say, but you need a lot of practice. Hours and hours and hours, insane hours of practice over a long period of time. And then you'll see what was difficult today becomes more accessible tomorrow. It literally is the hardest thing, especially in our day and age, right? To get the mind to do, to stay with one thing for a long period of time. But lucky you, lucky us, it's a beautiful thing. The most beautiful thing. Like Sarvamangala Devi was saying to me today, earlier this morning in our call. It's like, why would I want to think about anything else but Krishna? He's so beautiful. He's literally the most beautiful. He's Ati Sundara. It's beyond beauty. So because of that, you don't, no worries. If we suck at visualizing, it's no problem. We want to visualize Ma because she's so beautiful. Then you'll see. Today I suck at visualization. Tomorrow I suck a little less. The next day I suck a little less. And one day I don't suck at all. One day I see the image. By Ma's grace, it's possible, but forget about grace for now. Just practice. Practice. And what does practice look like? Repeating the mantra. Gradually, you increase that over time, and then trying your best to see her image in your mind. And you can, of course, do the Lila Dhyana, you can do Tattva Dhyana, but after a while, Rupa Dhyana solidifies. Then, and this is interesting, that reality in your heart will feel more real than the reality that you see around you. And then a very interesting idea comes about that reality is nothing but reified language. Why do we see a table? Because the mantra of the table is perfect. There's a mantra siddhi for the concept of table, therefore I see table. Once I say Ma Kali's name enough times, the mantra siddhi, the perfection of that mantra, is the experience of a tangible living Kali, first in the heart. That's called Savikalpa Samadhi. So when that happens, we become so absorbed in that image of Ma Kali in the heart that we will forget the world. In other words, we exchange this reality for some other reality. A reality that's a bit closer, feels a bit more real. Just like when you wake up from a dream, it feels like you're in something more real. Just like that, Savikalpa Samadhi will make you feel like it's more real than this physical world, which is when renunciation comes. So the test for Savikalpa, many people say they've seen Kali. It's true, many people have. Actually, that's why they're here. Those who are practicing sincere spiritual life probably have seen Kali. But you know what? You see the transformation. After they've seen Kali, they become so sincere. Yet others tell me they see Kali, but there's no real change in their life. Because what they mean by seeing is just kind of like imagining, right? It's not really. But today's visualization is tomorrow's realization. So at least it's better than nothing. But the proof of Savikalpa Samadhi, many people are, of course, claiming it. But the proof of Savikalpa Samadhi is renunciation. A person can no longer take the world seriously anymore after they've tasted that. Because that world is so much more real. And not only that, so much more fulfilling. Everything else seems like a shadow, like a dream compared to that. So Savikalpa Samadhi gives you two things. Tremendous distaste for the world because it no longer feels that real, at least indifference, and a burning love for God, who is now firmly real for you. Your whole life will be about God. Once we taste Savikalpa Samadhi, there's probably very little possibility of doing anything but God, 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 God. You become God obsessed. Savikalpa Samadhi, because it's real now for you. Really, really, really real. What is Nirvikalpa Samadhi? I don't know. What can I say? Who can say? Nobody. Some people have the authority to talk about that. Definitely not me, right? Nirvikalpa Samadhi is, who knows? That can happen only by grace. And if it happens, you might not come back. I certainly won't. I don't know. Who knows? Ma's great. But that pretty much, again, we should stop. With Nirvikalpa Samadhi, we have to stop. There's like nothing you can really say. Theoretically, though, it's when even that image disappears. I don't know anything about it, but theoretically, it's when that image that you see in Savikalpa, like in deep absorbed meditation, when that image is no longer there. Because you have theoretically you've been thinking many thoughts. Now you're thinking one thought. It's possible that that thought drops too. How, I don't know, but of its own accord it drops. And then when there's no thought, that's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And that's, some people argue, the highest state. And that's the non-dual state. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the meditator, the act of meditating, and that which you are meditating on are all merged into one. It's pragya ghana. It's a mass of consciousness, if you will. And there's nothing higher, arguably, except one thing. Sri Ramakrishna called this vijnana. It's possible to come out of that. And if you come out of that, you get what Kashmir Shaiva philosophers are talking about, the experience of God as the world. So before Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it's a concept. After Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it's a reality. You can't deny it. If you are lucky enough to come out of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you will probably notice that that which was there on the roof is here in the steps. That which was there in Samadhi is present here as all of this. And it blazes forth with clarity and conviction in each and every moment. Right? Yeah, theoretically, it'd be like the source, exactly. I think that's a really good way of putting it, Matt. It's the source of all images, beyond all images, that transcendent reality, the self, that Advaita is realized in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So I think we'll leave it at that. Maybe this sheds a little bit of light on how japa works. And I hope it inspires you, because really the way ahead is so simple, isn't it? Ma Sarada said it best. She literally just said japa, japa, japa. That was her instruction. Japa, japa, japa. I think saying it thrice makes it really important. Japa for the body, japa for the mind, japa for the soul. Like japa on every level, like just really it's so easy. Like all we have to do is repeat the name incessantly. And through repeating the name incessantly, all can be achieved. Japat siddhihi. Japat, Sanskrit fifth case. Purnat, mudachate. Japat. Japat. From japa, siddhi comes perfection. From japa comes renunciation, realization of God. Viveka, vairagya, like obviously inadvertently you get it just through japa. And importantly, ruchi comes, taste. So through doing a lot of repetition, there comes this relish for the name. And once that taste comes, then nobody needs to tell us to do japa. Then we ourselves want to do japa. And japa and japa and japa our way into the more and more increasingly tangible experience of the Divine Mother Kali. So this verse, one way to interpret this practice is just remember that she functions as limitation. Japa is limitation. You're limiting your mind to one thought. You're saying, mind, you can run about all the places that you want, but I'm just going to limit you to this one thought now. So that takes your power. Shakti's power. Shakti is power. That power comes through in the form of limiting your mind and concentration to that one name and that one form. And through that limitation, one becomes free of all limitation. Or through contemplating limitation, contemplating the mantra, one becomes free of limitation. Another way you can interpret this is she is Vikalpa. She is the one who projects Vikalpas, actually. And by contemplating vikalpa, you become free of vikalpa. It's so crazy. How do you overcome words with words like this? How do you overcome mind with mind like this? By focusing on one vikalpa, you become free of all vikalpas. For she, the goddess, is herself both that vikalpa and that which transcends all vikalpas. Okay. O Mahamaye Jaganmata Kalike Ghora Dakshine Grihana Vandanam Devi Namaste Parameshwari Om Grihana Vandanam Mata Sada Vijaya Vardhanihi Pada Padmam Sada Vande Sthanam Dehi Padambuje Om Sthanam Dehi Padambuje Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanam Astu. Jai Bhava.